Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the farm. Thanks for joining us. We're a little bit crunched for time, but I wanted to answer a question that I got a couple days ago from a viewer, and they were asking about the rooting that pigs will do. The assumption from a lot of people actually, and it really got me thinking, a lot of people will assume that pig rooting is a bad thing. I'm here to tell you today that pig rooting can be one of the most beneficial things to your pasture, to improve your land, to improve your farm, as long as you're using it properly. So what I thought about today, I'm going to talk a little bit about the use cases of pigs. If you're only raising pigs for meat, I believe you're doing it wrong. I don't typically make bold claims like that or speak in absolute terms on our channel, but I truly believe if you're not using pigs to your advantage, if you're not using them to work for you, well, they're going to be a one-dimensional animal, and the cost that you put into them, the input that goes into raising pigs, probably, unless you're raising really high quality meat and really efficiently doing so, you're probably not getting the most bang for your buck. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some use cases for pigs. We're going to go through each one quickly. If you guys have any questions and want me to expand a little bit more, please drop us a comment, drop some questions below, and let's dive right into it. So if you're considering pigs on your farm, you're probably just thinking mainly in terms of meat. You're thinking the quality of the breed, what type of meat am I gonna get, what size animal are we gonna be dealing with, and what type of yield are you gonna get there. But again, guys, there's multiple use cases for pigs. Pigs serve a lot of purposes on your farm aside from a meat yield. Obviously, yes, that's first and foremost. That's why we truly did get them. But I first wanna talk about land clearing. Right here behind me, and I've touched on this a couple times on the channel, this is our new pasture. You can see, and I'll walk with you a little so you can kind of get an idea of what we're looking at. This has only been a few days since they've been in here. You can see how thick it is. There's a lot of stuff that is overgrown, a lot of briars, a lot of brush in here, and they're gonna get in here and they're actually gonna work this land. So this is where I'm gonna say rooting is used for land clearance. In terms of land clearance, you're gonna want your pig in a confined area for, I'm gonna say, an extended period of time. I don't want you guys to take that the wrong way. We're not gonna leave them in here for a year or so, but an extended period of time is all kind of dependent on your circumstances. It's all dependent on your size of your pasture, your size of your paddock, how many animals you have, and what feed is available to them. In this instance, the relatively small area, I'm thinking within 30 days or so, this is gonna look completely different than what you're looking at right now. So that's one method, that's land clearing. The pigs are already kind of doing their thing here. They're already working the land. This is a little embankment here on the pasture, and they're already rooting this stuff up. You can see everything that they dug up here, and they're gonna continue to do this throughout the entire area until this is all going to be overturned soil. And just to kind of prove it out, if you guys are familiar with the channel, you've seen this, but if you're new, this is going to kind of be your result. It's going to be wide open. This was the last pasture we just moved them from a week ago. Obviously there's a lot of down branches and a lot of woody material they'll leave. They're not going to eat everything. They're not vacuum cleaners, but they do a tremendous job on clearing land. They cleared all the underbrush. Again, if you guys are new to the channel, you couldn't even walk through here before, and it's completely clean now. So if you do not want that, if you don't want everything rooted up and completely decimated into ground zero, obviously you're gonna move your pigs a little bit more frequently. So that's what we're gonna talk about next. Your next strategy will be to maintain a pasture, to improve your pasture, without getting, a bunch of deep craters and excessive rooting, things that are going to actually hurt. If you're raising it for grassy pasture, you don't want that type of rooting. You're going to want more of a controlled rooting, a controlled tilling. I'll use the word tilling now. Again, this was by design over here. This is what we wanted to do. But if you have them on a grassy pasture, something that you're going to want to maintain for other livestock, you're going to want to get your pigs in and out of there very quickly. Pig breed does come into factor here. These guinea hog Hampshire crosses, they'll root like crazy. We've also raised Idaho pasture pigs here they're a much better grazer. Their snouts are upturned a little bit, so they can't necessarily root as effectively. So they're gonna go through, they're gonna graze the grasses down, and then they're gonna kind of move on their way. But again, speed is the key here. You can only leave them on there for a day. 2 days would probably even be pushing it. I would be moving them every day. But there are benefits to that. There's benefits to that tilling. The reason commercial tillers and mechanical tillers are harmful to your soil, the actual process, they go too deep in the soil and it actually compacts the soil underneath, which is gonna hurt the biology to your soil. If you use pigs properly, you're gonna have some rooting like this, some very shallow rooting, just enough to loosen the soil, which is actually going to create kind of that aeration effect for your pasture. It's going to allow new seeds to germinate. If you need to overseed, it's a great method. Obviously, you'll have stuff nice and loose. You can get seed in here, and then effectively, you know, your pasture is going to come in a little bit stronger. If we're over on the other side, I mean, they'll make craters that are, you know, honestly like 2.5, 3 feet deep if you let them in there long enough. You have that in a pasture where you're grazing, say, sheep or cattle, it's going to be a nightmare. You're not going to get good pasture mix in there. You're not going to have good grasses. It's just going to be a nightmare. So moral of the story, get them in and out quickly. I know I've said this a few times, but I want to continue to drum that point home. Move them day after day, and don't return them back to that until we start getting established growth again. And also really look in and consider different breeds if you're going to do that. Again, our breed, it's just not going to work. These Hampshires, they're known for their rooting. They're going to dig big holes in there, and it's not what we want. But that is really, I mean, that's 2 effective methods to develop your pasture. I would say what we did here on the other pasture, that is kind of your groundwork. That's if you have an overgrown area, you're really trying to clear it out. Your second step, what we talked about, is kind of maintaining and improving pasture. So moving on from pasture improvement, our next purpose for pigs, at least on our farm, and anything I say, guys, it is what we're doing. I'm not saying it's the end all be all. I'm not saying it needs to be done or it's the only way. I don't ever want to make those claims here, but utilizing chickens with your pigs, we found to be extremely successful, extremely beneficial, mainly for the safety of the chickens. So until we put pigs here, we actually were losing chickens left and right. We lost a flock pretty much, or at least part of a flock pretty much every year. Our pigs have come in and they served as a natural deterrent. Obviously, they're big animals. They're going to scare off pretty much any predator in the area, whether it's going to be hawks or foxes, raccoons. You know, that stuff is not going to get in and intermingle with a 300-pound hog. It's just not going to happen. So from the sheer standpoint of safety for our chickens, it's definitely awesome. Now, take it a step further, and this is where, you know, that systems thinking approach really kind of comes in. Our chickens are always in here, and we move them. I mean, I'm about 50 yards away from our coop right now, and we're onto a next pasture with a woven wire fencing in between, and our chickens are always on this side now. They're always hanging out with the pigs, and the reason for that, they are basically going to come in. The pigs will root. The pigs are going to root. The chickens are going to kind of come in and scratch that stuff up. So while the pigs dig out, the chickens come in and kind of level the ground back out. And what they're doing is they're going to basically eat anything that the pigs kind of kick up and don't eat themselves. They're also going, I know it's going to sound gross, but they're also going to go in and pick out a lot of valuable nutrients out of that pig manure. That's perfectly fine, guys. That's how chickens are. That's the most nutritious food source that they could probably have. So just that alone, I barely feed them. And I've hit a whole video on this, so you can go back and check our channel out. I'm not going to go into too much length, but those benefits go on and on and on for us. So the last one I'm going to cover today is pig manure. Now, pigs get this bad rap. Everyone thinks that pigs are so dirty and there's manure everywhere. Well, there is a heavy manure load with pigs. They're just big animals. Obviously, that means there's going to be big poops. I don't know what else to say. So manure, though, it can be used for various reasons. You can use it in compost. You can use it to spread in pasture like the one behind me. And all that stuff is going to continue to help improve your soil. Now, with pig manure, if you've never seen it, and this one right here is probably a bad example, but It's pretty big, guys. Let's be honest. It's pretty large, so it's going to take a while to break down. If you're putting it in compost, it's going to be a little bit difficult to break down. It might be a longer term compost. If you're throwing it on your pasture, it's going to take a while for it to break down. So again, let's backtrack to our chickens. This is where, again, chickens do a great job working together with your pigs. They're going to get in, they're going to kind of scratch that manure open. They're going to pick through it. They're going to fling it everywhere. I know it sounds gross, but it's very effective in the breakdown process of that manure and then helping it kind of leach down into your soil and add nutrients there. So it's very beneficial. You just have to think about how you're going to use it. And in the event that you can't utilize chickens, well, now you're going to have to kind of just accept the fact that it's going to take a little bit longer to break down than that of sheep, which is going to be kind of pelletized, or that of chickens, which is a lot smaller and even a little bit runnier in a lot of instances. So all things to consider. But again, if you have chickens in with them, it expedites the process. So that being said, guys, pigs have several use cases on your farm. They're a dual purpose animal, at least in my book. Again, I'm not going to go out and claim that you need to do all this stuff, but I truly do believe if you're not utilizing them in more than one capacity, I really do think you're kind of doing it a little bit wrong, or at least, at the very least, I don't think you're getting the maximum value out of your animals. I'm sure you're raising great quality meat. I'm sure you're getting a lot of meat in your freezer, but in my opinion, you are leaving money on the table. You're leaving labor hours on the table. Imagine what would happen if I got in here and tried to clean this by hand with a chainsaw or with, say a pruner. It would take me hours upon hours, days upon days. The pigs, you set them, you're feeding them anyway, and they're going to do the work for you. So it's almost like having, little employees on your farm, if you will. It's like having little workers just going at it all day, every day for you. And that is definitely maximizing kind of your potential of your farm, maximizing your time, because now, you're not tied up doing something that, quite honestly, most people just don't get a whole lot of enjoyment out of. Everyone likes to do some physical work, of course, but I don't want to be spending days upon days in here when I could be doing other projects out here and getting some other things done that's going to add more value to our farm. So when it's all said and done and you're considering pigs, I hope you guys consider utilizing one of these methods, utilizing them in some sort of capacity that we are right now. At the very least, put your chickens in with them. Our chickens, again, our chicken feed cost has gone down significantly since putting them in with the pigs, because they're finding everything the pigs are rooting up. They're picking at that manure like I talked about. So at the very least, I'm saving money there. But hopefully you guys can implement a method or two from us. Hopefully you guys found this valuable. And I really appreciate the viewer asking the question and kind of getting my gears turning. A lot of times as we're throwing these videos out, we touch on things and we may overlook some things. We may kind of take it for granted that people watching our channel may already know some of this stuff. So I really do appreciate it when somebody reins me back in, slows me down, and allows me to take a little bit of a deeper dive into some of these things and really explain the whys and the hows. So great question. I really appreciate it. So as always, guys, if you like what we're doing, give us a good thumbs up. As always, you can hit that subscribe button to continue following our journey. Questions, comments, they're certainly appreciated. We'll be sure to get back to you. You guys saw today, we love questions from our viewers. We want to know what you guys are thinking. We want to know what you guys are interested in. So drop us some questions below. You can also support our channel by checking out the links in the description below. I'll drop a few things in there that we use pretty much every day out here on the farm. You click those links, any purchase through there will help support our channel as well. So with that, guys, go get yourself some pigs and put them to work. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day.